Super Quickie! In April 2021, the FDA mandated a pause to the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine. Why? Because out of more than 6.8 million doses that were administered, there were potentially fatal blood clots found in 6 people. Just 6! Literally 1 in a million! And only 1 of them died! Not only that, but there was no causal link established. Just, they got the vaccine, then they got a blood clot sometime in the next 2 weeks. Out of that many people, you could probably expect someone to die from being struck by lightning. Does that mean the vaccine causes lightning strikes? It wasn't even in line with other medical standards. With birth control pills, clotting is a risk factor in 1 in 1,000 patients, but they're still on the market. This is the big problem with the FDA. They have the incentive to stop medicine that'll save 1,000 lives if there's a chance it'll kill 1. Take propranolol, the first beta blocker. The FDA approved it for minor uses in 1968, but didn't allow it to be used for angina until 1973 and hypertension in 1976. As a result, well over 30,000 Americans died whose lives would have been saved if propranolol had been made available earlier. But not only was the FDA not held accountable for those deaths, they were actually criticized by Congress for their premature approval of the drug. Numerous studies have found over and over again that the FDA, by delaying entry of new medicines into the market, have killed far more people than they can claim to have saved, not even counting the drugs that never got to exist in the first place. As former FDA Commissioner Alexander Schmidt once said, "Rarely, if ever, has Congress held a hearing to look into the failure of the FDA to approve a new entity, but it has held hundreds of hearings alleging that the FDA has done something wrong by approving a drug." And their response to COVID has just proven for certain that nothing has changed. According to economics professor Alex Tabarrok, approving a bad drug has more severe consequences for the FDA than does failing to approve a good drug. In the former case, at least some victims are identifiable, and the New York Times writes stories about them and how they died because the FDA failed. In the latter case, when the FDA fails to approve a good drug, people die, but the bodies are buried in an invisible graveyard. That invisible graveyard has potentially billions of bodies in it as a result of the cult of the omnipotent state. It's just that with the FDA, it's a lot more obvious, at least if you bother to look at the statistics.